Well, good afternoon, viewers. Today we have a 2012 Chevy Malibu. It has the mighty 2.4 Ecotec inline four-cylinder engine, and today's task is to replace that exhaust manifold. It's cracked in the middle. So I've already removed the engine cover. There is a hose clamp, comes in about 90 degrees here to the throttle body. Hose clamp on here and a hose clamp on this vent hose, PCV fresh air line. Take the oil filter cap off and just pull the cover off. There it is there. So we're going to raise it up on the hoist and prepare the access from the bottom and take these heat shield bolts off. I've already had it off to look in there to see what exactly was wrong with it, so hopefully that'll make it easier. So once that top heat shield comes off, there are three little 6mm bolts here. One of them broke off, but it doesn't matter because we're changing the manifold. You can see the crack in the manifold here. It's been patched up with some muffler cement, but that didn't hold. So these bolts are a challenge to get to back here on the manifold, and I see the exhaust bolts are from the bottom, or from the top down. So there's three. So I've sprayed penetrating fluid on them, and I think we're going to use heat on them just to help loosen them. I don't want to break them off because that flange is part of the downpipe. I've got the O2 sensor removed. There's enough wire here, you can just loop the wire. So the sensor is out of the bung and just hung over to the side there. And we're going to get the torches out here and warm up those nuts. So I decided I would use my magnetic induction heater. You can see that I'm heating that up with this instead of using a flame here. We'll try it on one anyways, see if that works. Had this a few times and sometimes it doesn't get quite hot enough. What's nice about it is there's a light on it. When you press the trigger, it lights up the area where you're heating. And there's no open flame, so it's much safer to use on sketchy areas if there's fuel around or plastic panels. Anyways, I'm going to set this camera down. Well, that worked great on the first one, so we might as well try it on the second one there. It'll actually heat the stud up red hot. Now that's two of them off, so we're going to go for the third one, which is back there. So I'm using both a 6-inch wobble extension and a semi-deep 13mm socket for the underside bolts, and a 4-inch extension and wobble extension and a semi-deep socket for the top manifold bolts. So there's the new exhaust manifold part number 674-937 from Dorman. Comes with the flange gasket, the cylinder head gasket. Looks like an OE gasket. Comes with new mounting bolts and new screws, or new machine screws for the shield. And I'm not sure what this is. I'm going to look at the instructions. There are 10 bolts, so I've got 8 of them out already. I've got these 2 left in there. These ones you can access from underneath the manifold with a 6-inch extension, 4-inch extension, and wobble socket. And we should be good to go. Take out the last 2 bolts. So we have to raise the vehicle because the exhaust studs coming up through the top here are at 90 degrees to the studs on the engine, because it's not bolts on the engine, it's studs. So you can't lift the manifold up and you can't slide it back, so you have to drop the exhaust. So there's one bolt on a mount below that I dropped and support it so it doesn't stress that. Now there's one other snafu here. You can see that bolt where I'm pointing my finger, that's the block heater. So because this is a Northern Ontario vehicle, it has a block heater installed, and believe it or not, it goes partially over top of the flange on the manifold. So the manifold's loose in there, but it won't come off. But before we go any further, we're going to stuff a rag in this pipe down here, so in case I drop a socket or a nut, that it doesn't end up inside the catalytic converter. Just a precautionary measure. We'll take that block heater off and then the manifold should come off. So you don't actually have to remove this completely, just loosen it, let it tip down, and the manifold will sneak out from underneath the flange there. There's the manifold off. You can see the crack right underneath here. Probably fall in two pieces if I drop it on the floor. And we're going to have to get the gasket off there now and check the gasket surface, make sure it's clean. So one of the actual studs came out, so I've taken the nut off of it because it got new nuts, and I've cleaned it up with the wire wheel. I've replaced the gasket, got new gasket in there, and yes, I put high-tack gasket spray on it just because I'm old school like that. You can put it on dry. It's not necessary to put gasket sealant on it. So I'm going to install this new stud. There's a E-drive tip on the end of it. What size is it? I can't read that. 25 or something like that. So I thought I'd look up the torque for these exhaust manifold nuts on the studs. And it says here 124 inch-pounds, which is like 10 foot-pounds. 10 and a half foot-pounds. That seems awful low to me. They're 8mm studs. They should be good for about 20 to 28 foot-pounds. And I couldn't find the exhaust pipe flange. Doesn't mention that in here. Oh, here we go. That's fastener specification. The exhaust manifold. Exhaust. Let's try it. Catalytic converter to bracket. Catalytic converter to exhaust manifold. 33 foot-pounds. Exhaust manifold fastener. LY7. 15 foot-pounds. What the heck is 15 and 14Y? I've heard of Newton meters but I've never heard of 15Y. Was this a new metric? 58Y. Anyways, I torqued them to about 20 foot-pounds. The cylinder head exhaust manifold studs, and the ones that go to the catalytic converter 30. I torqued them about 40. Just use your own discretion. So there's that through bolt at the bottom bracket that I took out to drop the pipe down, and I put a tie wrap around it to hold it in place so that it wouldn't stress this flex joint, because this flex joint is probably pretty weak. So we're going to tighten this through bolt here and put the heat shield back on the manifold. The manifold is in up there. Bolts are torqued. So there's the new manifold installed. O2 sensor reinstalled. And there's 3 new fasteners to hold this heat shield on. Just goes down in here like so. Pretty straightforward. There it goes. Just like that. I usually put a little never sees on all the fasteners as well. Well, there it is, back together and running. That one bolt is through this opening here that holds the air induction onto the throttle body. And this small vent hose here goes on there. Hose clamp. We just got to change a headlight bulb. And we're good to go. Yeah, just change a simple headlight bulb. Gotta take the whole frickin' bumper cover partially off to get at the headlight. This is what happens when an engineer's wife sleeps with a mechanic. He'll get back at them. So we're gonna change both bulbs on this side because we got it apart. And it would have been worse, but the plastic bumper cover is broken down in the bottom here. The bolt in this corner broke off as soon as I tried to remove it. Same with the other side. There's like 8 fasteners across the top and 16 push pins and 2 bolts on the headlight. Why couldn't they have made an access door through the back of this? There's more than enough room in here, but they didn't.